Hello and welcome to La Cinémathèque. Today we will talk about our new film series, Homage to Jean-Luc Godard, in collaboration with Montclair Film. This will be a series of 5 films made during the French New Wave, period 1960 to 1970, where he will establish himself as the most influential director of his time and certainly of all time. He will influence all future cinema, making the possibility to break the rule and create a very personal style. He is not only one important filmmaker, or the only very important filmmaker, but an essential artist in the second part of the 20th century. Please join us, in this film series to discover or rediscover the film of Jean-Luc Godard. Now, let me talk about his life and, give you some important point of where he's coming from. So, Jean-Luc Godard was born in December 3rd, 1930 in Paris, and he died, like you maybe knows, in 2022 in Switzerland. So he's a French-Swiss film director. So what's important to know is that he will talk about Switzerland in his film, on and off, but the core of his work was obviously in Paris with the French New Wave other director, So he is a preeminence of all the main directors of the French New Wave group during the late 50s and the 60s. Now, I will go through all his films, all the main important films, because he made so many films we can't even count them. We think about 60 to 70 films, but these are the most important features. First, this is what we'll go over. A Woman is a Woman, Alphaville, Band of Outsiders, Breathless that we will show in this series, Contempt we will show in this series, Every Man for Himself, First Name Carmen, Elle Marie, La Chinoise, My Life to Live, Notre Musique, Numéro 2, Passion, Pierrot, who is called Pierrot le Fou, that we will show too in the series, the image book, The Little Soldier, 2 or 3 things I know about her, Weekend. That are the main films that he made, but of course there is a lot of ones. So there is about 5 of these films that we will show in this series. So early life, he spent his formative years in Swiss, on the side of Lake Geneva, who, as I don't know if you all know, is on the border of France, where his father was a doctor and directed a clinic. He had a lot of ambition for his son in the way that he wanted certainly to be a doctor or, or some professional liberal profession, but his higher education consisted of study a degree in ethnology at the University of Paris. So he was always extremely creative, extremely educated, and the first short film that he made, Opération Béton in 1954, can show this ethnological interest, with the influence of another very big name of the New Wave, Jean Rouch. Jean Rouch was an anthropologist who was very interesting in documentary. So we can start to understand the connection between filmmaking and documentary-like film style, or called cinéma vérité or cinéma truth. That is really the core of the French New Wave. Filmmakers of the French New Wave employ and use a lot of light equipment, way of putting the shooting on step by step and following an editing process was very different. So Godard learned the art of film in La Cinémathèque, who, as you know, was run by Henri Langlois and by all the young directors of the time, and Les Cahiers du Cinéma. Let's not forget that he started writing before to do anything. He was a film critic, like François Truffaut and many other, Romer, Rivette, and everything. So, Breathless filmmaking style is really the first film of Jean-Luc Godard, and he really he experiment everything in this film. And the other point too was interesting that he was produced by Truffaut. So, the Breathless was shot on a really daily basis, without a script. So that is really already revolutionary for the time. He writes the dialogue from day to day, improvisation of technique to create an abstract effect. He loves this experimental way of doing it, and he is how he break the rules of classic filmmaking. Jean-Paul Belmondo, Gene Seberg are the main actors in this film, and this is the first film that we will watch. Godard, the start of the Godard career, tell us the story of this little petit chief, in this film, who is often Godard alter ego. Godard is showing us his vision of life, 1960s, with obviously the way of living short and fast, Godard used the face of the actress also too, who was his wife, Anna Karenina, in a lot of his films, of the time. Le Petit Soldat, Little Soldier in 1963, who was really banned from the movie theater because of the torture. And of course, 1963, it's the Algerian connection with the War of Algeria. Vivre Sa Vie too, 1962, My Life to Live, very important film, where you see how a young Parisian woman go through difficult time and become a prostitute. And this is really, we're talking real life. Documentary style, always used the way that he wanted. In 1963, he started with a very big budget film. It's called Le Mépris, Contempt. This was certainly the biggest, money used, budget for this film, based on a story by Italian novelist Alberto Moravia. And it really shows what a big film is. I can make a big film. Inside the film, we will see Fritz Lang. Fritz Lang is a great director of Metropolis and M. Brigitte Bardot was like the star of the time, Michel Piccoli. And we see this is a very big budget, but always with the style of breaking the rules and trying to explore something. 1965, Pierrot le Fou, that we will show too. Again, an individual vision of society in crisis and existential question. Always crisis, existential question, and really big question of society. Few other films, that we will not watch in this series, but who are very important. Alphaville, La Chinoise. All of these films are really very important, and they really determine what is the first period of Godard. In general, Godard offered his visual and verbal image with extensive culture. He is very, very well cultured and knows everything about painting, about literature. His film came to include shots of books and read from and suggested streets, sign, poster, all kind of different things, who make this really a very, very original film. And he talked a lot about the medium itself by saying, life is 24 hours, 24 frame a cinema. In 1966, another film were, two of these films, Made in USA, who is a very, very well-known film too, one of them, but we will not see this in this series because we are keeping it to 5, and 2 or 3 things that I know about her. Showed Godard too, again, this idea of society, the idea of an individual, and he put these two things together to give you really a sense of what is young people are living at the time. He is a cineast of the young people. And of course, I wanted to finish by, he is a political person. He believes in politics, and in 1968, he will side with everyone of the working class, of the student, and of course it's a time that he will stand up on the Cannes Film Festival and stop the Cannes Film Festival by saying, the life of working class and student are more important than you making film. Weekend is a very good example of this because we see how he describes society as being really a very catastrophic vision of the horror of what's going on then. And he was at that time in 1968, that's what's going on. So we have here, what I'll try to do, a short introduction of the film series, and really on the first part of Godard film series, 1960 there to 1967, and of course up to 1968. So around this area, this first part of his experimentation, and it's really the French New Wave experimentation. We will talk over the next time, over the next part of his life, the third and the fourth. He recreates himself always, is why, as a creator, as an artist, he is known certainly as the most important filmmaker of the century. It's possible that some people are very animated to say that without him, we will not have anything of indie cinema or American cinema today. So thank you for joining us on this new series of 5 films in Montclair film. All dates and detail will come in very little from now. Thank you very much.